All right, welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies might have inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about The Boss. We are talking about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, the new movie about Bruce Springsteen, starring Jeremy Allen White, directed by Scott Cooper. And there was no one I could have join me on this one other than Jason Harris from Awesome Movie Year, who, as you'll hear in our conversation, is the biggest Springsteen superfan. So we got a lot of great stuff to get into on this one, even if I was kind of lukewarm on the movie. But we'll get into that in the conversation as well. Before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on social media at Piecing Pod. And with that said, let's get to this conversation about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Jason Harris is with me, and there is no one else I could have for this episode because it's time to talk Springsteen. How's it going, Jason?
Dave, let's count us into this podcast. One, two, hee, ho! Good job,
stuff.
buddy.
Nice. All right.
You know, all things Springsteen, I'm always going to be on top of. For the audience who doesn't know, I am a super fan. But in the Springsteen world, you wouldn't even be considered a super fan. How many concerts have I seen of The Boss? Over 60. I lost count at 60. Yes, my brother and I use it as an excuse to travel, see new places. We followed him around Ireland. We've been to California, Phoenix, Chicago, Milwaukee, obviously New York, New Jersey, Las Vegas. I've seen him in Portland a couple of times. So just kind of, this is my guy, but and there's no real feeling like seeing him live, but it's also just a great way to go and see places.
That's freaking wonderful. I've seen him once. I wish I've seen him more than that, but yeah, just the one time. And I mean, he's great. I find it very hard to believe anybody who says they don't like Bruce Springsteen.
Where did you see him, Dave?
Here in Vegas.
Which show?
Just this last one at Allegiant.
T-Mobile. Yeah.
Or T-Mobile.
I was there as well. So, yeah. And I went down to LA 2 weeks later, and he just kind of blazed it super hard. But yeah, I mean, whether you like him or not, if you see him live, there's no denying what he does. Like,
right.
It's like saying, I don't like James Brown, right?
Right.
When you see them live, you're like, you got to respect that. I wrote about music for a decade, and I can tell you I've seen just about every great live act there is. And The Boss is the best. He's the best live act in music. And if you're wondering about why the box office didn't crush for this, that's one of the reasons. So
yeah, possibly. And I think we should say, like, going into this, like, you were happy as a Bruce Springsteen fan. I was a little let down, although I didn't hate the movie. I was whelmed. I
don't know who the movie's for, because as a super fan, I didn't learn much, but I enjoyed it. And as a casual fan, you're not getting the jukebox musical, right?
Right.
So that being a complaint, not from me, but from others, it's like, dude, it's a movie about Nebraska, his least commercial album of all time. One of the least commercial albums ever at a time when he was ascending towards rock superstardom. So, they maybe could have focused in on that a little more, like the idea of like, hey man, you worked this hard to get to this point, and now you're doing the craziest left turn in rock and roll history, right?
I almost feel like start the movie like 3 months earlier or something, and we end with him kind of throwing this stuff away to go work on Nebraska. Like I don't, instead of starting there and then just kind of treading water. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Well, I mean, with the kind of basic thoughts, we both love One Battle After Another, and that was the most alive I felt in a movie theater in a long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie has two sequences where you can't help but feel that same energy and electricity and just being alive in the moment. Dave, what are those two sequences?
I'm guessing you're going to say they're the concert sequences.
Yes, Born to Run at the beginning, which is, a live concert setting, and, one of the top 5 most famous rock songs of all time.
Sure.
And also when they go into the studio after we've been recording all these Nebraska kind of demos when the band just goes hard at Born in the USA.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, what a moment, right? So, that says something about the movie, though, where it's like, hey, we're taking two iconic songs, neither of which are on Nebraska or have, I get the link between Nebraska and Born in the USA, obviously, and the history. But if you're making a jukebox musical, you're going to go for those type of things.
Right.
The Born in the USA album would have been probably the one where it's like, hey, you just put out this tape recorded album. Now we got to get you back to where you were or whatever, the next level. But Bruce Springsteen had no interest in that. And that's great. This is the movie that he was excited to see based on the book that was written. Warren Zane, Scott Cooper approached him. And as he says, this is what he wanted to do. So good for him.
So before we start getting into some puzzle pieces, I'm assuming you read the book?
This is one of the books I have yet to read on Springsteen.
Okay. All right.
I've read many other books on him, and I would highly recommend his autobiography.
Mm-hmm.
I've read Little Steven's autobiography. I've read Clarence Clemens' autobiography, plus some other books. And the other cool thing is when you read about music in the 70s, including punk music in the 70s, Bruce always comes up, So those chapters, just like the old History of Rock and Roll, like 10 episode documentary series on VH1 back in the day, when they get to those Springsteen live stuff, and you're like, this is just otherworldly. It's pretty great. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Well, let's start getting to it. What do you have for your first puzzle piece?
My first puzzle piece, Dave, I'm going to start. Let's get rid of the Springsteen movies first, right? The ones where he's either been the subject of or actually appeared in, right? So I would recommend to everyone to watch the documentaries that his Thrill Hill Productions has put out, especially the Born to Run one and the Darkness on the Edge of Town one. But they're all great. They're all excellent. The two movies that, from the narrative standpoint, that align with this one, of course, Blinded by the Light, which is about the Muslim immigrant in Great Britain who doesn't fit in at all, and how Bruce Springsteen's music gives him hope of fitting in. And it's at a time where England is just going through, the crapper economically. Does that sound familiar to any of us right now?
Sure.
And then, Dave, on Awesome Movie Year, we covered High Fidelity, which we both love. And I think that's the only Springsteen cameo in a film. Film.
I think you might be right about that, and a great cameo at that. And by the way, Blinded by the Light, correct me if I'm wrong, was that your first time on piecing it together?
Oh, like I actually pay attention to such matters. You would know better. You're the historian of piecing it together. Yeah, I'm just here to do the work, baby.
I feel like it was. But interesting ones to kick it off with, going to, Springsteen in movies. I'm actually going to kick it off with for my pieces with the movies referenced in the movie, and go with Badlands and Night of the Hunter, which are both, well documented as being influences on Springsteen writing Nebraska. And I think Scott Cooper wisely tried to incorporate a little bit of that into some of the flashback sequences as well, in the way that things are shot during those sequences when he's a kid and all that. And I think that's an interesting, it could have been done better, honestly, but it's an interesting approach anyway to showing where he was and what's kind of going through his head as he's like getting to this point in his career.
So, we were both fans of The Big Picture, and I listened to their podcasts, and they all hated this movie, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. But they mentioned that you shouldn't put movies on screen that are better than the movie that you're watching, right?
Yeah, sure.
And we could. I actually like this better than Night of the Hunter. I like it just fine, but obviously Badlands is one of my favorites.
Incredible. Yeah.
But Badlands is, another anthem from the Boss, the leadoff track on Darkness on the Edge of Town. So it was interesting to me that we were doing that. I do understand it from the standpoint of like the Starkweather story, but to me, he had already written Badlands based on watching that movie repeatedly. So how much juice did he get out of the Terrence Malick film Badlands is a good question.
Yeah. I mean, but I feel like that's him, and anything Malick is something that's going to inspire so much other art, whether it's movies, music, whatever. It's one of those things that just keeps on giving. So, it makes sense to a degree. But what do you got next?
Well, we have to go to a movie where someone is so obsessed with getting their music out that trumps every other effort. In this case, we have him dealing with that to one self-medicate in a way, and also it kind of hampers whatever romantic relationships he might have. So, I know that's been done somewhat in certain music biopics before, but I picked Whiplash for that one because I
Okay.
think that is the best version of seeing that obsession and how hard you have to work and how far are you willing to take it to get there.
That's interesting, yeah, because it is a relationship that seems like it's got something going for it, but nope, just right in the trash.
Yeah, and I think Springsteen would admit he self-sabotaged a lot. Anything that would get in the way of the music or where he would have to let people in before he got into therapy, he kind of avoided.
Yeah, absolutely. I will go to Inside Llewyn Davis for my next puzzle piece. Specifically, although of course you could probably put a lot of comparisons between the two movies, but specifically to the scene where Oscar Isaac's Llewyn Davis has just poured his heart out over this very acoustic ballad that's just really beautiful, and then F. Murray Abrams says, "I don't see a lot of money here." And that's basically what the studio is saying when they hear this new album. They don't get it whatsoever. They do not see dollar signs, and so it's just basically worthless to them.
It's a strange thing because, like we said, at this time, this was an unheard of thing to do. Today, would you just be like, "Cool, I'll just release it on my website and I'll keep all the money," right?
Yeah,
Who knows? But Llewyn Davis, obviously, you think of Bob Dylan. When I saw the last two shows at Shea Stadium in 2004, Dylan came out and they did Highway 61 Revisited together.
nice.
So I think obviously a Complete Unknown would have also been a real easy fit there.
Yeah,
And not just that, I mean, you're talking about Inside Llewyn Davis. These are the cafes that Bruce was going to in New York in the early 70s, taking the bus in because nobody knew what New Jersey was. And certainly there was no music scene outside of that bubble, right? Like there was a great music scene down the shore, as we like to say, Asbury Park, but no one from any other world kind of knew what there was. There is a documentary now, I think it's called The Jersey Sound, where they interview like Southside Johnny and a lot of those guys. I haven't watched it yet, but I love the Jersey Sound. I did interview Steven Van Zandt before, and we talked about it, the idea of like horns and soul, and you're playing 5 hours a night. You're the best bar band in the world, and that's how you get to be like these live killers, right? So it's a confluence of everything. Like I said, soul, funk, rock, and it's just kind of created its own thing. Obviously, folk in this regard. So I like that piece, Dave.
Isn't it great that now you just can type in a prompt with AI and just create that awesome sound, and that's good enough.
That's what we've been waiting for. Who needs human artistry at this point in time? Um, all right, I'm going to do one more big music movie. And it is about how music heals you. Another one we've covered on Awesome Movie Year, and another one of my favorites, Billy Elliot, in this case, the ballet dancer, right?
Hmm.
But it's the act of movement and creating, and what you see with Springsteen on stage is that's how he medicated himself, right? I
Yeah.
remember in that documentary I referenced, the History of Rock and Roll, it was like, it's part political rally, part, revival,
Hmm.
and, whatever, part carnival, or, but his thing was always get their asses out of their seats and their souls will follow.
Uh-huh.
And nobody does it better. He's the live killer, man.
Awesome, awesome, and I know how much you love Billy Elliot, so I'm glad you managed to bring it into this one because it works too. So yeah.
And while I do like Bruce's dancing, I've never been at a concert and said that little codger sure can dance.
Sure, absolutely. So I was going to bring up a complete unknown, but we already talked about it. I'll move on to Elvis for my next puzzle piece. Just talking about a musician who their success has gotten them to this point that they just are not quite sure what to do with it. at this point, and they're just basically stuck at like the golden handcuffs kind of thing of that success. And Bruce in this case wants to go away and do his own thing, but the label, his manager, everybody is just everybody wants different things out of him, and that's like a major part of that Elvis movie.
Yeah, I love that as a piece in regards to Bruce loved Elvis too.
Sure,
right? You know, as many people did, he tried to write songs for him. There's the famous story on it was either Bruce or Elvis's birthday in like '76. Springsteen and Little Steven jumped the walls of Graceland to try to go meet him.
Nice.
And a security guard, maybe it was '75, a security guard like stopped him and he's like, Elvison? They're like, what? They just thought he was a crazy fan. And he was like, no, I'm on the cover of Time and Newsweek this week, right? So it would have been '75. And the other thing that you kind of brought up is I know Bruce in concert has talked about using Elvis as an example of like, if you don't keep control, this is what can happen to you, right?
Sure,
like the fame, the drugs, the yes. I think there's a song, it's an outtake. You might find it on the Tracks album, the first one, Johnny Bye Bye, is all about Elvis's death, the day Elvis died. So that's
dark one.
Yeah, Springsteen deep cut for you, buddy. So,
nice, I like it.
All right, so you mentioned the central relationship in the movie. To me, is with Springsteen and his manager John Landau, and John Landau is I don't think that's a normal relationship between a manager and an artist, especially not at this point, right? Like he was willing to throw everything away, and he's got that line, in this office we respect Bruce Springsteen, right? Or whatever he wants to do. Turned him into Bernie Sanders apparently. But I mean, again, I'm watching them like, man, I wish my manager would go to bat for me for something like that hard,
seriously.
Right? So I took that relationship and I thought, like, who's a friend who went so far he was willing to risk everything for his other friend's mission? And that took me to the Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Bruce is Frodo and John Landau is Sam.
Well, that is much better than where I was going to go with that relationship. Because I was thinking about Jeremy Strong as this guy who's like pushing this other person to take things to the next level. And I went to his portrayal of Roy Cohn in The Apprentice.
Oh, that's terrible. I don't like yours at all.
I mean, but you got to at least say it's funny that they're like Bruce Springsteen and Trump are literally the opposite ends of the spectrum. And in both cases, we've got Jeremy Strong pushing them to become the kind of the best versions of themselves in a way.
Well, I mean,
but
Dave, when it was springtime, maybe May this year, who was the first artist to be out there speaking out in concerts while everyone was backing down and making excuses? Snoop was playing the, the inauguration. Oh, I'm just here to entertain. And it's like, I'm just like, no, you got to know what you stand for and what you're all about. And Springsteen came out on stage on fire, opened up, and just talked about where America is going down the tubes. And not just that, he's not saying like, oh, America's going down. He's saying, look, I love this country. These are the values I've been singing about for 50 years. What we have right now is a dictatorship, an autocracy, something fascistic that doesn't resonate with what we as Americans are. And of course, Trump, being the wise, venerable, mature man that he is, said, Bruce Springsteen's skin is bad, because Trump's skin is really the best, the picture of good health, right?
Yeah, of course.
And it's like when the president of the United States responds to an artist, in general, why are you doing that? But two, if that's your response, why are you still supporting this guy? This is what I don't understand about these Trump supporters. It's like they don't seem to understand. If this dude was in your regular life, you'd be like, he's toxic, I need to be away from him. Or you'd punch him in the face for being such a fucking garbage person, right? I'm really happy. I mean, I was really proud as a Springsteen fan that he was the first one frontlining that and being like, look, dude, I've earned this political capital. I'm using it because this is what I believe in. While all these other artists just kowtow, and Disney as a company kowtows, and Apple as a company kowtows, the boss is out there on the front lines with it.
And it's not like he just like picked it up because it was like in or something. He's been that forever, basically.
Right, with Reagan and playing Born in the USA, he basically said, I don't think Reagan was listening to the songs on Nebraska, and he made him stop using the song with that. So, yeah, to me, that's more of, you're standing by all this stuff. It's not like, like you're saying, it's also not like, oh, look, let me take a stance just to take a stance. It's like, here's 50 years of evidence from my
Exactly.
music, right? So,
Exactly.
so I get it, and we're still in a hellscape. Thanks for that, Dave.
Yes,
So.
we are. Yes, we are. I've got one more piece. What else do you got?
I got two more. So we at least have to bring up a movie where depression is a main theme
Hmm.
and it kind of affects the main characters. To me, one that sticks with me is About a Boy. I love that movie. And
Okay.
I think, the Toni Collette performance and the way it affects her son is really evocative of this. And you can see that Bruce's dad, Doug Springsteen, who came back from World War II, like so many others, never got any mental help because that wasn't a thing. And he was medicated with alcohol and he took it out on his family. And clearly he needed the mental help, and clearly Bruce needed the help as well.
Yeah, and that is like obviously the main. I mean, would you say that's kind of the main theme of this movie? Like, it's more about that depression and all that than it is even the making of Nebraska, right?
Yeah, I mean, they go one and the same, right? Like the idea is I'm this depressed. These are the songs I'm writing. These are the ones I need to get out based on where I am as a person.
Sure.
But, in his 60s, maybe probably 13, 14 years ago, Bruce went through another big depression. And he was one of the first celebrities who was out there, like really talking about, I mean, I'm not saying he's the first one, but like he was really, at least from a rock and roll standpoint, at the forefront of saying like, look, I deal with depression. I go to therapy for it. I just went through 2 really bad years, and if you don't take care of your mental health, you're really not going to be able to take care of anything else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that actually leads up really well to my last puzzle piece then, because it's going to be Oppenheimer, talking about somebody who had this big. I mean, success is a weird word for it, but like what he was able to accomplish, and then having to kind of live through the fallout of that and be like just so unable to kind of deal with it, and unable to process everything that he's done, and it drives him away from other people and inward, and all of the problems that kind of fall out from there. And I think as far as a character who's had such a well, a person, not really a character, they're real people, but someone who has had such a major impact on society and how they internalize that, I think both these movies deal with that, similar
I want to
ways.
see Christopher Nolan make a musical now. We haven't
Hell
seen
yeah.
that yet, right?
That would be good after he does his gigantic Odyssey, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. Who knows what he'll do? But right, the thing that you don't realize is, are you defined by your accomplishments? Are you defined by your fame?
Yeah.
Those type of things and how they affect you. And there's always a backlash, right?
Yeah.
When Springsteen ended the E Street Band in like 88, 89, and then he did the solo stuff, there was the obligatory backlash until everyone was like, oh wait, he came back with the reunion tour, and they're like, oh yeah, this was it. This is what we missed. We're
Mm.
we're assholes,
Yeah,
so
sure.
that type of thing. So okay, Dave, one major theme for my last piece that we haven't discussed. My piece is diner, because half this movie takes place at eating eggs at 2 a.m. in a diner,
He
right?
eats so many pancakes in this movie. It's amazing.
And he never gained the weight because he was doing those 3.5, 4 hour shows
Yeah.
and the 3.5 hour sound checks before it, because he was so obsessed with that. That was the only thing that made him feel good. But you and I are both from back east. New Jersey is the diner state. We all used to go out. I think I'd probably weigh an extra 200 pounds if I still live there, because it's so tempting to just go
Yeah.
to the diners late at night. You talk with your friends, you hang out, you eat the meals. And do you know the famous story of when Bruce was playing in St. Louis one night in like the 80s, and
Mm-mm.
he went to a movie, and this guy, like he was a teenager, came up, and he was like in the same movie theater. He's like, "Hey, you're Bruce Springsteen." And he's like, "Yep." He's like, "Oh, I'm a big fan. I went to your show." He's like, "Cool." He goes, "Hey, you want to come back over after the show, and my mom will cook us dinner?" And he was like, "Okay." And of course, they
Awesome.
go to they go to this woman's house at midnight, right? And the kid answers the door, and he goes, "Mom, I got Bruce Springsteen with me." And then she goes, "What? Who?" And he's like, "Mom, from the record, Bruce Springsteen." And she goes, "Oh, can I cook you some eggs?" And he goes, "Okay." And then he ate eggs with this random family at midnight. And then for like the next 20 years, when he would play in St. Louis, they would all like hang out in the most Springsteen story of all time.
That is fantastic. I love that so much. That he really is like such an amazing like folk hero of America. Like that is like he is just the perfect American, you know.
Yeah, it's fun if you want to watch something wacky that's like a play on that. If you go watch those old clips from the Ben Stiller show where like Springsteen stories and they're like myths of Springsteen where he does a 24-hour set, fights off aliens and delivers a baby all during the same event. And but I get it. Some people like this movie, some people won't. I can't recommend enough digging into his catalog as a musician, his documentaries, and whether you like him or not, if you ever get a chance to see him live, please go do that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Jason, is there another movie you watched recently you want to recommend to our listeners?
Cool. Dave, I'll throw a documentary and a narrative out there for you. Because the reason I'm doing that is because I know you've already recommended the narrative. So the documentary, it's I like the sports docs. This one's on Netflix. It's Who Killed the Montreal Expos, and it shows how greed and corruption and bad management can ruin a career. In this case, the career of an entire baseball franchise. So in a way, it kind of connects to this movie because Springsteen had a manager who would fight for everything to never harm his career, right?
Nice, yeah.
The narrative film, and we are recording this right around Halloween. Not saying it's a Halloween movie, but it does give you some of those creepy, crawly vibes, and also plays into what you were talking, Dave, about, or what we were talking about, the state of America right now. It's our guy Ari Aster's Eddington finally got around to that, and anytime he puts anything out, it's an event movie for us.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a movie that, like, I know you weren't as hot on it as I was, but that's a movie that really grew on me. So, like, tell me in like a month how you feel about it, because the more I think about it, the more I love it. So
that's great. I mean, to me, it makes me happy that there is a filmmaker. First of all, I think he does deliver every time, whether it was my favorite of his or not. It wasn't, but that's okay. But it makes you want to see what he's going to do next.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Well, Jason, what are you up to? What's awesome movie you're up to? Tell us about everything.
Awesome movie year round in the corner. We're almost done with 1971, which is a great season. 71, right around Badlands time, right? I think Badlands was 72, 73 maybe or something like that. So we're finishing that. We will have a new season, of course, after that. Jason Harris Comedy or Jay Harris Comedy and all the things. Go for Jason on Letterboxd. Come out to a trivia night. We got a bunch of them around town.
All right, Jason. We look forward to getting you back again sometime soon.
Huh!
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. Thank you to Jason Harris for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying piecing it together, make sure you are subscribed. You can also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod and join the Facebook group Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. Also, if you're in Las Vegas, come on down to Wax Trax Records, the record store that I run, where you will find a lot of Springsteen stuff. If you're a Springsteen fan, there's pretty much nothing you're not going to be able to find at Wax Trax. So come on down, say hi to me, and come dig through our Springsteen stuff. But with that said, let's close this out with a piece of music like I always do. And you know what? There is a song by the Pup Pups that was 100% Springsteen influenced. So I'm going to go with that. This is a song called Runnin' from the Pup Pups album 3 Chords and the Pooch. And I hope you enjoy it. And we'll be back with more Piecing It Together real soon.
My days are Friday, might be done, or so it seems. But you know I keep on running in my dreams, hey. Running in my dreams. now I'm just laying on the couch. Take me to the dog park, no one was quite as fast as me. But you know that I'm just as fast as I'm supposed to be. Running in my dreams. Running in my dreams. My days of running might be done, or so it seems. But you know I keep on running in my dreams. Running in my dreams, yeah. Keep running in my dreams. Running in my dreams. Remember me and my tennis ball, I chased it to the end of the line. Running like a train on fire, it could really blow your mind. Running through the rainy days, lightning and even thunder. I never stopped and I never will, baby, speed is just a number. Running in my dreams, yeah. Running in my dreams. My days of running might be done, but so it seems. But you know I keep on running in my dreams. Running in my dreams, yeah. Running in my dreams, yeah. My days of running might be done, but so it seems. But you know I keep on running in my dreams. Running in my dreams, yeah. Running in my dreams, yeah. My days of running might be done, so it seems. But you know I keep on running in my dreams.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.